Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining me this afternoon for this class on station trading. There's a long list of things that we want to cover today. We'll go through especially the mechanics of trading. So how do you set up trades? What are the skills required, etc. How do you do station trading? Why is it a good idea or a bad idea to do station trading? The tools, some of the tools that you can use to help you on your journey for trading. So let's get started. First is how to trade in Eve. So if I put this here, right. There are a few skills that you want to keep track of. Most of them are all situated in the trade tab. So you don't need to see my skill queue. The most basic one is the trade skill. So the trade skill is what opens up everything else here. It's what gives you the possibility to place trade order on the market. Without this, you can only use immediate orders, which is basically buying and selling immediately from the market. We'll come back to that later. On top of trade, you will see that there's retail. Retail is what augments the limit of active order that you can have. Then after retail comes wholesale, and then tycoon, if I'm not mistaken. So and then tycoon. In total, you can get 310 or something in those waters orders simultaneously. Some people, depending on what kind of trading you're doing, this could be very little or a lot. But usually for station trading, it's completely enough. Now, on top of that, you will have to deal with taxes. Yeah, do I want to get there yet? Okay, so taxes are handled by 3 skills in your inventory here. One of them is accounting. So when you make a sale, I'll come back to that later, but there's 2 types of taxes. Accounting reduces one of them. The other one is broker relationship. This is only useful if you're trading in a NPC station. The last one is advanced broker relationship, and this has to do with relisting fees, but those I'll cover again later. On top of that, you can do contracting. I'll not cover this during this session. Next is marketing, day trading, procurement, and visibility. So those 4 are all related to how you can handle your trades remotely. I never remember which one is which. So this one is increases the distance through which you can sell items remotely. So if you come to your personal assets, and I'll come back to that again later. If you want to sell, let's say, those items that are in JITA, I am currently in perimeter. You can right-click them and you can sell them. I can do that because my marketing skill is at least at level 2, which means that I can sell remotely to up to 5 jumps away from where I'm currently. The second one is visibility. No, sorry, it's procurement. No. I will find it. It's day trading. Yeah, day trading makes you gives you the ability to actually change those orders remotely, so you can relist those orders at a different price. Try and keep marketing and day trading at the same level. Otherwise, well, it's just painful. Next is the procurement. It's exactly the same thing as marketing, but on the buy orders. This is, I would say, is not really useful unless you're doing really long-range trading. For station trading, you don't need this. The last one is visibility. It's how far, when you do a when you try and sell something, not when you try and buy something, sorry, you can say how far away you want your trade to be effective at. So you can only accept trades from your current station, from the whole solar system, the whole region, or a certain number of jumps away. This is to prevent you from basically getting in the situation that you can see here, where every little station around JITA gets an item where people just sell them to you from there. Honestly, I think that they're trying to troll you, but who knows. So you can decide here how far you can sell an item. Well, from how far you're willing to buy an item. Sorry. The visibility trait does not affect that. What it affects is with a remote trade that you place with procurement, what kind of visibility to that trade can you give? So from perimeter, if I want to place a trade in a buy order in JITA using procurement, which again I don't recommend, the range here would be affected by my level in visibility. As they mentioned, only remotely placed buy orders using procurement requires a skill. Honestly, it's a useless skill. Don't use that. Well, again, for station trading. So you're probably already familiar with the market. Obviously, this is how you acquire any type of items in the game. Let's say I'm looking for an armor repair item or the FUD with Reynolds. So I can come here, and then from here I can see all of the sell orders and the buy orders. Now, this is something that probably trips up a lot of new players, because why is there a lot of prices there? The way it's set up, the sell orders are basically the prices at which anyone is willing to sell any kind of items. Which means that you are not obligated, when you place a sell order, to put it at the lowest price possible. Same for the buy orders. Now, why is this working this way? Well, it's to establish a big market that you can pick and choose from. Where it becomes interesting is, let's say for the buy orders, you can put orders that have different range. So depending on where you are in the space of Eve, you will have access to different buy or sell orders. So this is very important, because this is what enables station trading to be done at a reduced fee. But again, I'll come back a little bit later on that. Now, if you don't have any skills in trading, what you would usually do is pick the cheapest and just buy from it, and then let's say buy this small repairer here. If you're doing station trading, don't ever do that, because this is basically what you want to do. No, this is basically what you want your customers to do, not you. As soon as you can have, okay, so if you were to buy, it would be like this. Otherwise, if you want to buy at a lower price, as you can see here, some people are buying items at 6,000. So if you were to just come back from your exploration session, you want to get rid of all of the items, you don't want to care too much about how much you want to sell them, you can sell everything at the buy price. Again, I strongly suggest at the end of this session that you stop doing that. You're giving up anywhere between either, well, 0%, which is in that case just sell it directly, but up to 50% in margin. So what if you want to sell, no, so what if you want to buy something? Buy orders are actually more difficult than sell orders, so I'll start with those. The way this works is in this little window here, you can set all of those options. There's a button here, remember setting. The first time you set up a buy order, please click on remember setting. It's going to save you a lot of trouble in the future. Now, the first item here is location. If you click on it, you can actually select the station from which you want to sell. So if I want to sell from JITA, Caldari, I think it's administration, something, JITA 44, Navy Assembly. There it is. That's the trade hub. Why they didn't call it the trade hub here, it's probably related to historical reasons, doesn't really matter. So if I want to buy an item from a remote station, using again the marketing skill that I talked about a bit earlier, that's where I can change it. This, unfortunately, you cannot save, so that's why, while you can place remote buy orders, they're really annoying to manage, because you will have to retype every time, like, oh, I want the JITA 4 for Caldari assembly plant. Oh, I don't even have the skills to actually do that. So I suggest that you move to wherever you want to place your buy orders from. We'll discuss later in the station trading section where you should actually go. Next is the bid price. The bid price is basically the price that's going to appear here. It's telling other people, I'm willing to buy this amount of an item at this price. Helpfully, Eve is going to give you a little percentage here compared to the regional price. I'm not even sure it's been communicated how those regional prices are computed, but they are related to the moving average of the price historically for that region. So you will see that something in the Forge is going to probably sell for less than anywhere else in New Eden. Then you can set the quantity. You can set the minimum quantity to allow a purchase. Honestly, I've never seen that used by anyone. It's probably to avoid you selling like one ammo every time. Oh, that's interesting. Shikokin said that the prices are averaged and updated every Wednesday. Wednesday would make sense because it would be between 2 weekends. But I feel like they're updated more often than that. I don't know. To be discovered. Yeah, the minimum here, unless you're selling, let's say, ammo, and you don't want someone just filling your wallet orders with a bunch of 1 unit buy, this is not really useful. Next, you can choose a duration for your order. I have not seen any reason to choose anything other than immediate or 3 months. Basically what this does is that if you set, let's say 3 days, it means that your order goes out in 3 days. You would recuperate, in that case, your money, or you would get back the items that you put in escrow. Honestly, you can also cancel the order at any time. There's no difference between whether the order expires or whether you cancel the order. You're not going to recuperate your money. So I've not seen any point, and that's why most of the time you'll see a bunch of 88, 89. Like, nobody cares much about those smaller numbers of duration. Next is the range. So depending where you set up your buy order, how far are you willing to go to get your item? That means hauling a lot of stuff. Be very careful with that setting. As soon as you're starting to look at bigger items, it can be very costly to go and fetch them all around the world. However, if you're looking for one ship, it makes sense to cover the whole region if it's a rare enough ship. Next is the broker's fee. I'll come back to the broker's fee when I talk about station trading. And this is the total amount of ISK that this is going to cost you if your order gets fulfilled in its entirety. So if I have 100 items here, I'll have to pay at the end of the order 1,600,000, etc. That includes the broker's fee. Next, if you want to sell something. If you want to sell something, the easiest way to do so would be to come to your item hanger. I'll come here and try and sell those waif. I don't know how you pronounce that. Doesn't matter. If you right-click any items, you can see the details of the market. You can see that those are selling for, wow, a lot of money. But so this is going to be a very good example for why you don't want to look at the margins. So you can look at the market details, and then once you're satisfied and have an idea of which price you want to sell something at, your item has to be in your item hanger so that you can sell it. Then you can sell this item. It's very similar to the other window. There's only like two settings that you'll really care about. One of them is how many of them you want to sell. This could be important to change. Usually it's set up to your current inventory. Next is how much you want to sell them for, and that is going to depend highly on what is in here. I believe that the minimum price here is mostly not the minimum price, but the price here is given from the estimated price in recent history, but that's not always the case. Usually it goes right to the buy price. I don't know. There's mysterious things happening here. As for the buy orders, you can change how long your orders is going to last. There's actually, again, only two settings that you care about. Immediate would sell it at the current buy price, and 3 months would sell it for the 3 months would sell it for well, you basically put your order in the queue here, and it's going to appear there for at most 3 months. So it's much simpler. One gotcha though is the fees. So there's two fees instead of one when you put an order on the market. The first one is the broker's fee. It's the same as for buying. However, there's also a sales tax. So every item that you sell within within New Eden will have the sales tax appended to it wherever you are. This is from the, how's it called? The Commission of Trade of New Eden, something like that, where they actually get that money. It's a way for CCP to just get money off of the game. This you can bring down using the accounting skill. So earlier on I said that there was two main skills here to reduce those fees. The accounting skill is going to reduce the sales tax from 5% all the way up to 2.5%, I believe. No, it's actually a bastard number. Like, don't bother with that. But it goes all the way up down to 2.5%, if I remember correctly. The other one is the broker's fee. The broker's fee is influenced by the broker's relation only in NPC station. So in here, I'm in Tranquility Trading Tower. This is the Keepstar put up by I think it's Test. Actually, it's a conglomerate of a few of the big alliances. They set up the broker's fee. Since March of this year, the minimum they can set it up at is 1%. So 1% of every trade that goes through perimeter actually gives money to those big alliances. Actually, on that topic, oh, you cannot see it. I'll show you later. On that topic, there's been a nice information sheet that was put on Reddit yesterday. Apparently, they do up to 22 trillion? Where is it? 2.2 trillion ISK per month. We'll come back to that later. So, that's the mechanics of it. The last one that I want to mention is relisting. So you can come here and see all of your current orders. This is super interesting if you want to change your prices. I have armor blocks that I got, I think, from a previous exploration outing. I changed their price yesterday to 500 to try and sell them. Apparently someone now made a mistake and tried to sell them. Oh yeah, that's one thing. When you do a sell order, be very careful how you do it, because from, let's say here, if sometimes you actually sell stuff using the 3 months, by default the price here is usually going to be the buy price plus one tick here being 1,000th of the fourth digit basically that you can change. I'll come back to that later. Be careful to click on immediate, because otherwise you end up with a situation like this where the buy price is at 360 and you actually put a sell order paying broker's fee for 360 and 10. So you can punish these people by actually buying all that they put up for sale and then selling them yourself at the actual correct price. That's your first glance at market PvP. Take advantage of people's mistake. So now this person paid 2.5% at least, probably closer to 4% in broker's fee for something that they could have gotten out of. So don't do that. Where was I going with this? Oh yeah, relisting. So yesterday I put a order for those armor blocks. Now they're listed at 500. The current lowest price is 499.60. So you can always right-click your current order, so the blue ones, and modify the order. Once you modify the order, it's about the same thing. The only thing you can change is the price that you're listing everything at. I hate 0.1 is king, so you cannot change the amount. This is going to become very important later when we discuss a little bit more of the strategies for station trading. So new sell price, click OK. Now, there is going to be a broker's fee here. How is this computed? If you want a very specific formula, you can go on the Eve University. They have the formula there. Basically, you pay 100% on the difference, so the change here of the fee. So if you reduce the price, that does not apply. But if you increase the price, you pay an addition of you pay the full broker's fee on the difference. On top of that, you pay between 0.5 and 0.75, no, sorry, between 0.5 and 0.25%, no, not percent, between 50 and 25% of the total broker's fee on the whole item again. Meaning that every time you relist something, you repay a part of the broker's fee. This can be reduced again by the skill Advanced Brokers Relationship. You can read the Mammoth skill description there to actually get how it works more specifically. I was actually going to do that because why not? Actually, no, this one since I bought more. Oh no, I'll modify it just for you. There we go. And it's going to get me the money from the broker's fee for the relisting fee, and then update the my order here. Now, questions on the mechanics of trading? Otherwise, I'll start with the station trading. I realize I'm already at halftime, so. Alright, so station trading. The way this is going to work, if you ask people on the internet, they're going to tell you, well, buy low, sell high. What does that mean? It means not doing immediate buy or sell orders. It means putting up buy orders at the price that makes sense, in the hope that you're going to flip it around and actually sell it at the sell price. So here, if I was to place a buy order for 360 and then sell at 490, I would do roughly 25% in margin on that item. Is this a lot? Is this not a lot? It really depends. The way you want to do this is well, mechanically, it's really just that. You place a buy order, you place a sell order. Now, you have to be very careful. When you go to the price history tab, you will see historically where the price of that item. Right here, you can see that the price of this item has always been 350. Why? Because very few people actually sell items compared to how many people are actually buying those. This is probably because the people buying here with those ginormous quantities, those actually use those items to craft or do industry with them. They don't actually try and resell them. So usually, if you are looking for 2 million of one item, you are not going to go through a bunch of sales order and get up to 2 million. You'll actually put a buy order for that amount. When doing so, it means that your chances of competing with these people to sell those items is next to none. Like, I would actually venture that it's a bad idea for me to put that sell order here, because as you can see, there's approximately no volume around the price of 500, except like very recently. So this would be a very bad items to station trade. Next, let's look at another very bad item to station trade. Let's go for, let's get a skin. Skin are either amazing or awful to trade. get this one. No, this one's actually good. No, they're good. Trip skin. Here. Yeah. So, if you go into market data here, this skin is bought for 22 million and sold for $2 billion. Not dollars, but ISK. Now, this sounds like a great idea. Like you could buy you could buy them for very cheap and sell them for 100 times the price. Well, not really, because if you look here, at the bottom you have the volume of trading of that item in the past. As you can see here, over the last year, there's been one trade here, one trade here. So basically total there's been, let's say, 7 trades. Well, closer to 10. 10 trades. 10 trades is not what you will survive doing station trading on. What you want to optimize for is, well, you want to make money, right? So you don't want to spend a lot of time keeping skins that you might be able to sell in 4 months. So that's my second point. So why margin are not what you should optimize for. If you're looking for an item with a great margin, well, this one is a great one because it's a 1000% increase in price. But the chance of you actually selling one of those items is next to none, especially since there actually seems to be a lot of competition for something that's selling so few items of it. However, if you're looking, let's say, at the Caldari skin shuttle, Caldari shuttle, yeah, this one. Oh, now that becomes a lot more interesting because you actually have volume every day of people buying and selling those items. Well, mostly selling, apparently. So, next lesson is how to actually read that graph here. On the right, you will see the scale for the volume of items that are sold during that time. I suggest that you move to, let's say, the last 20 days. Oh yeah, biosecurity have been introduced not so long ago. So let's say in the last 3 weeks, there has been that much volume of those skins exchanged on the market. The dots that you see here is the median price, even though oh no, they actually say median now, is the median price of those sales. That means that half of the orders that were realized during that day were below, and half of the orders were above. This is not the average, because the average would be a lot more skewed than this. In fact, you have an idea here of the moving average of those by looking at the blue line. The blue line is basically a moving average over 5 days of the price. Whether this moving average actually is using... No, it's probably using the actual average because the median would be lower. So be warned, you're not looking at the same at the same statistics between those two here. If you see the bars, so I don't know if the resolution is good enough on the stream, but you can see that around that point there's a bar that goes all the way down to almost 0 and all the way up. That's for July 28th, all the way up to 200,000. This means that the highest price that day was at 200,000 and the lowest price that day was around, what's the market here, around 13,000. What this means is that, going back, this is not the worst market, because since the median price is actually in between those two, you can expect that there's enough in those transactions here in this volume of both sell and buy orders. So actually this one would be a good one to trade. You could buy any number of skins here at around 15,000, and sell them for, well, now 95,000. So that's a eightfold increased. So take note. If you don't have a lot of money, items like this are very good to start from. Next, something that you should not do. Let's go with an Eldari ship. Not a good example. Not a good example. So station trading involves a lot of looking through a bunch of those charts and finding the right one quickly. This one's not too bad. Should have. This one's weird. This one's a good example. So you see here, there is some amount of disparity between the buy price and the sell price. But most days you can see that this is a selling market, meaning that probably all of those items here, they're not bought on the market, they're only sold, meaning they probably are all produced by industrialists that are trying to get rid of their merchandise. That means that here, this person buying, I don't know, 400,000 of an item is probably never going to be hit because people, well, industrialists usually are savvy enough to actually put a sell order, not actually sell at the buy price, unless they really want to get rid of some stock. So here, if you were to do station trading, you would have a lot of trouble actually getting items to be able to sell them. But once you get some, it would be very easy to actually sell them. So when you look for an item to station trade, look for the ones that have, let's go with this one, that have the dots that happen about in the middle of those channels here. Yeah, this one's not too bad. It's not great, but it's not too bad. You can see that it's actually both the market on the up and down. Now, as a station trader, again, margins is not what you're looking for. Actually, what you want to do, your actual goal, is to make money. How do you make money? By moving items from the buy side to the sell side. So, in a sense, station traders are providing a service in New Eden where they try to reduce as much as possible the gap between the buyer's price and the seller's price. So we're actually the good guys here. We're trying to make the market more efficient by reducing this gap here so that someone that don't want to play the market can just sell the buy price without expecting to be screwed up from by the numbers. So in summary, you're looking for items that have volume that is traded every day. You're looking for items that have a margin. If you're looking at some of the exploration loot, you can see that the margin is barely like 3%. Don't look at that. You're looking for items that have both sell and buy that are activated every day. And the best way to figure that out is to look at the dot here and see if it's about in the middle of those lines. So between the highest and the lowest sell price. The highest price sell price or the lowest buy price. Other way around. Doesn't matter. You got what I mean. All of this to mean that you are actually looking for items that have velocity in the market. You want items that have just enough for you to be able to contribute into it without being overwhelming. So what do you think is the one item that is sold and bought the most in New Eden?
Tritanium.
Thank you, Tritanium. The best something is the asteroid you're trying to get it from. Tritanium. Tritanium has a volume that's completely off the chart. We're looking at like 15 billion units traded every day, between 5 and 15. The margin is not the best, but as you can see, there's actually the dots is not one way or the other. So there's both trade. There's trade in both directions here. So this would be like an ideal item to use. However, for two problems. First, the first problem is the difference between the buy price and the sell price. Well, as you can see here, it's actually reversed. The sell price is lower than the buy price. That's because of where you can get the item from. Moving mineral is very hard, so everything that's hard to move, you can probably profit from hauling it around in New Eden. I would not suggest it because hauling stuff is I guess some people like it. But let's say just in perimeter. It's interesting here that minerals are traded more in perimeter than JITA. So just in perimeter, the difference between the buy price is 6.97 and the sell price is 7.14. Do not enter this market. From just the sell tax and the broker's fee, you always have to get at least a margin of 3% plus 3% plus 2%, around, let's say, 8%. Anything lower than 8% in margin, get away from, because it's going to basically cost you money to do that trade. To be very comfortable, especially in a market where you'll probably have to relist your item, if you want to do station trading, aim for at least 20% in margin. Now, the second biggest problem here is all of those people, well, they also want to get rid of their items. So as you can see, a lot of those items, a lot of those orders were refreshed in the last hour. Well, last few hours, let's say. So that means that if you want to compete with those people, you will need to relist your order by upping your order by 0.01 ISK every few minutes. Don't bother. This is not a game you want to play. Honestly, if you want some mineral at this difference here in price, it's just quicker to buy it. Alright, how do you find good items to trade? Honestly, unless you have a list of items that you built over time, of items that are worth trading, so that basically check all of them, the characteristics I just enumerated, you'll have to go through and look for some of them. So this one seems like a good margin. You go to the price history. Seems like it's a mostly buyer's market, but there's people selling also. So Shield Common Specialist would be something where you could make profit. Now, how much profit? Well, you can expect to sell between 3 and 10 items a day. Okay, 3 and 10 items a day. I make, let's say, 450,000 ISK every day on every of those items. So that's between 1.5 and 3 million. Is it worth your time? Well, it depends how much you have capital. If you have a lot of money, this might not be worth your time. If you have very little money and you just started EVE yesterday, this is a great item to get into today. Another thing you want to look at is when are those orders most probably when were those orders most probably put in the system. Here you see this order has not been updated in 12 days. Why 12? Most of the orders start at 90 days. So this person here, well, obviously they haven't had to modify their orders, but even then, this one probably put it at a higher price than this one. But it took 2 days for this person to react. So this is an item where you can make money. Not a lot of it, but still, you can make money. Where the players that you're competing against are not lazy, but they're not as present as, let's say, Tritanium, where you have to update your order every 45 minutes. And you can sell it for a lot of money. Just the fact that you have an item here in JITA, especially, okay, all of the skill books, none of them are sold at JITA by NPCs. So if you can bring any type of skill book, you can sell it at even more than what the NPCs are selling, just for the convenience of people not having to care to move all the way to, let's say, Itamo to get the skill book. And I've been I've been one of those persons that can do that. Back to this graph here. When you're looking at the graph, you want to have items that you can assess are being traded both in selling and in buying. So the question is, how can we tell from this graph whether this is an item that's worth looking at? I don't know if you see the bars, but the bars represent the lowest price on any given day that the item was sold, and the highest price on any given day that an item was sold. Don't mind the Dunkin' channels; those are basically historical. Doesn't matter. If the dot is near one of the extremity, let's say here, you can approximate that on this day, those items were mostly bought, or at least the lowest price the item was bought at was 500,000. The highest price this item was sold at was 600,000, and so the lowest price it was bought. Actually, yeah, that's a trick, but I'll come back after that. The highest price it was bought was, well, the lowest highest price it was bought at is 500,000. So basically, the lowest number for the order was 500,000. The highest lower for the order was 600,000. If the dot here is somewhere in the middle, that means that actually the dot here signifies that half of the orders had the price that's lower than the dot, and half of the orders had the price that was higher than the dot. So the closer to the middle that you see the dot, the more you can say that the market here is balanced between both sell and buy orders. Now, if you look at a dot that's very close to the buy price, or at least the lowest price in the orders, it means that during that day, the price that was most exchanged using those orders was closer to 500,000 than 600,000. So that would mean, let's say that on that day, if this was a normal item, people bought it more than they sold it. Now, here, the problem with skill books is that it's very misleading, because not all of the items are actually provided by other people. All of the sale orders that you can see that has more than 90 days before they expire, those are NPC orders. NPCs provide skill books for, I think it's 25% or 30% cheaper than if you were to buy the skill in your skill in the inventory. Those are set at a set price. All of the NPC will sell it at that price, which is again 25 to 30% cheaper. Meaning that in this graph here, when I see that the lowest price an order was executed on that day was 500,000, that means that the lowest price on that day was someone that only bought a skill book at 500,000. And the highest price on that day was someone who actually bought it for 600,000. So on that day, unless here the numbers went crazy high, which I can tell you by experience this is never going to happen, nobody actually sold a skill book on that day. Contrary to, let's say, the day after, when you can see that the lowest price is actually closer to 300,000. Now, unless someone sold a skill book for very cheap, this is probably someone who bought the skill book at that price instead of selling. Unfortunately, from both this graph or the ASI, you can see the number, the price that was on the order that was executed on that day. You cannot see whether this was a buy or a sell order. That's a gotcha that unfortunately you'll have to deal with. This is probably still a good item to start from. There are better ones for sure, but if you do this analysis, let's say here, you can see that given that the NPCs sell at 500,000, it means that a lot of people probably bought around 300,000 some skill books. So there were 7 skill books on that day, meaning that 3 of them were bought around 300,000 and 3 of them were sold around 500,000. Meaning that you can make money here. Not a lot of money, but you can still make money. From experience, some of the anything that's related to capital, everything that's related to capital, you'll see a lot more movement because I don't think you can buy them. At least some of those you cannot buy directly from your skill queue. So you'll see more interesting. Yeah, this one. Here, no NPCs actually sell this, meaning that it has to be found in some place in the world of New Eden. Meaning that here, those items, well, obviously already you can see they're much closer in price, so you won't have as good of a margin in between those two. This one is probably one where you don't really want to trade in them because the difference in between the two is not high enough. So finding items is really a story if you want to do it by hand, to go through a bunch of them, look at the price history, and check for those queues. I'll show you a better method to do that, but this is not, I would say, well, it is available to everyone, but it's more complex. Next, I wanted to touch upon why is my trader, why my trader should never sit in JITA. So as I mentioned before, from the broker's fee, JITA is the biggest. JITA is the biggest trade hub in New Eden. You want to be around JITA because you'll get at least 3 times as much volume happening around JITA compared to the closest one, which is Amar. So JITA, if you have only one character that you want to do station trading in, should sit around JITA. However, they should not sit in JITA. When you place a buy order in JITA, you actually end up paying the broker's fee. Let me show you. I cannot place a remote buy order here. I don't really want to go to. Okay, if you go to JITA, you'll have, when you place a buy order, let's go back to here. Let's say I want to buy this. When I place my buy order, the broker's fee is not going to be 1%, it's going to be closer to 3.8%. That's because the broker's fee is set by the NPC station. They're all the same. Again, they can be brought down by one of your skills. Still, it means that you're basically losing 3% on any trade that you make to the NPCs. Since you don't want that, and you're more clever, you sit in Perimeter in Tranquility Trading Tower, and then you place your buy orders from here, but one jump away. By doing so, anyone who's actually in JITA and wants to sell you items is going to be able to without leaving JITA, so from their perspective, it's not any more trouble. And doing so, you actually save this 3% in broker's fee. Be careful though, you'll see sometimes people, they do put their sell order, their buy order from Perimeter, but they leave it to Station or Solar System. Nobody, at least very few people, are actually going to move to Perimeter from JITA to actually to sell any item unless the price is much better. Exceptions to this are Plex, skill injectors, some of the skins, and apparently minerals. Those, since you can save up to 3% on each of those transactions, and given the volume or the price of those items, it makes more sense to do them from the TTT station. But otherwise, most everything happens in JITA. So, back to what I was saying, never sit in JITA to place your order. Stay in Perimeter. Especially when you're at war with JITA holdings, it's also safer. When you get out of the station, you are repped by the station, so you have less chance of getting bombarded and lose your nice Astero and all of your implants. Like happened to me not so long ago. Okay. Now, if you're sitting here, there is going to be one problem. You'll start to see a bunch of items coming from other places in the world. Let's say people sending you stuff from see the 41 actually items that I bought earlier. I've been had because they're not in the right station. So I bought them from the wrong Jita 44, meaning I'll have to move and get there to move them to Jita, because otherwise nobody's going to ever buy them. You can sell those remotely using, again, the marketing skill, which is what you should do. So when you buy from Perimeter, a lot of the items are going to come directly in the Caldari Navy assembly plant. You can just right click them, look at the market, and sell some of those items. Earlier I moved some item right here, right, to sell. So let's say I wanted to sell those. I would go to sell. You can also click the little arrow here. Wow, they're giving those like candies. Given that everyone is and their mother seems to be selling those, I'll be keeping those for later. Common electrical filament I will actually keep for the FUD. I have a skin here. This is one that I bought on my alt. They ended up being traded to me in Perimeter, and since my Astero, with all of the cloaking that happens on it and the nice inertial dampener, I have much more nimble on this character. I decided to use this character to move them from one place to the other. Oh, by the way, use your auto dock and undock bookmarks, especially when you're at war like this. This is going to save you a lot of tears from experience. I am sitting right now in Perimeter. I want to sell this item. I would look at the price here. It's 2,100,000. I don't care much for 0.1 isking myself, so I would probably sell it for a few thousand below. If you see that you have a lot of competition, one way to strike fear in their hearts is if you see a number that's like this, and if you can still make money out of it, do crazy low, like shave 500,000, which is 25% of the profit. You're still making 1 million if you bought it at around 500,000. You're still making money, and you are less likely for your trader opponents to actually try and shave that much in one go. That does not always work. Some people they're willing to run their profit to the ground, but that's one thing you can do. For as long as you don't know how the other people are going to react, just go right above. Like this one was put 13 minutes ago, so I expect that this is going to be bumped, and I'm not going to be able to sell it at that price. So, setting this. Yeah, that answers why you should never sit in Jada to do your trade. Now, your trader, if you've trained an alt to do your trading, obviously train all of the skills related to trading, but also trade some of the skills related to hauling, meaning you'll need to have access to an industrial ship, like the Gallantry Industrial. Those are the bigger ones that you can use. They can get up to 45,000 meters cubed of items you can move around. They're crazy slow, so you will probably want to do the micro warp drive and cloak trick, meaning that you'll need to train cloak on that alt. Everything that can be like evasive maneuvering to reduce your align time is also welcome. But honestly, hauling stuff around is not super fun. It can be costly if you outsource it, but it's a fact of life. This is basically what you have to pay to save that 3% of broker's fee on your orders. If you do 0.1 isking, okay, so back to that skin I sold here. If this person here really wants to get rid of their skin, they'll probably in a few minutes relist their item higher than mine. You can keep doing this for a while, but don't forget that every time you're paying the relist fee. sorry, I should stop. You're going to have to pay the realist fee. The realist fee is not that high. We're talking here around 0.5% for buy orders, or 2 or 3% for sell orders. But if you relist an item 30 times at 3%, well, you're not going to make money out of that item. So 0.1 is king has been mostly killed by CCP. That does not mean that you cannot relist your items. You can do it, like, if you do it less than 5 times, if you aim for a 20% margin, you should be fine. More than that, well, you're eating in your profits. That's also why I strongly suggest that you get items that people are not completely fighting each other to buy. Talking about 0.1 is king, I did not mention that in the mechanics of trading, but if you sell something, if you buy something, the maximum number of significant digit that you can use is 4, meaning that if I wanted to, I could not here put 49. You couldn't put 49 here because it would give you 5 significant digits, so 5 digits that are not 0. That also means that if you do that, unfortunately the UI is not helpful enough to tell you you cannot do it. When you click on buy, it's going to round it up or down. I'm not sure. I'm not going to try it at this price. Up or down on the correct price. So the 0.1 is king now is 1,000th is king. It's been changed. Before March, you could change all of those numbers all the way down to here, which means that a lot of people, since the realist fee was just non-existent, would keep relisting everything every minute. A lot of people said that station trading was dead since then, and don't disabuse them, please, because those people were very annoying, and if you don't have to compete with them, then you have a better chance to actually make money. So don't tell them otherwise. Market PvP. Once you start doing station trading for a while, you'll realize that you see some patterns emerging. One thing that's interesting is if you go to your wallet and to your market transaction, you'll see here I sold my 60 armor blocks not too long ago to Codex Simius. This is very interesting because you see who actually buys from you or sell to you. That means that what you could do is you start recognizing who is doing station trading along with you around Jita, especially if you stick to the same items for any given amount of time. The things that you can do by doing that are very interesting. Well, obviously, I don't suggest that you start sending them email, threatening them because their 0.1 is king you. That's not what I'm suggesting. However, if you have a lot of capital, then you can start playing the market in a way that's very interesting. Let's say this item here. If I were to buy all of those skins, and it's not that many, like it's 20 skins. If I were to buy those 20 skins, now the new lowest sell price would become 15 million ISK. So by buying all of those at numbers that are fairly cheap, I could make a lot more money out of them. So what you want to do is, by doing station trading, again, what is going to happen is that the lowest sell price and the highest buy price are going to slowly creep up and close together. This means that, let's say you've spent 1 week buying an item at 1,000 ISK, and then suddenly another player comes into your item and tries to outbuy you, I guess. If you make the price go up in the buy orders enough that it makes sense for you to sell them, let's say that instead of 1,000 ISK, now the buy price went up to 70,000 ISK, and it's not rare to see like such an increase, especially for items that are not traded frequently. Well, if the 0.1 ISK at 70,000, it might be a lot more interesting for you to just get rid of all of the items that you bought at 1000 to that poor person that is trying to outbuy you because you made a 7000% increase. You can do the same by buying up to a certain number and then recreating a big gap between the buy and the sell orders. Obviously, station trading is not, well, this is a very bad example. Station trading is not about this one. Is not about trying to figure out over time the direction of the markets. Like, you're not going to profit from buying in January and then selling back in August. That's not what we're all about. However, you need to keep in mind those trends. If you see that something is going on a downward trend, it's because it's probably, well, it could be because a lot of other station traders are bringing the price down. So you need to be on the lookout for those. Anything that's on an upward trend is always interesting to trade in because you're just going to make money even if you bought items and then resold those items at the buy price. So that's always a good thing to keep in mind. Here are some tools that are interesting tools. One of them is EVE Marketeer. This is basically the same as the market screen in EVE, but here it applies to the whole of New Eden. So if you go into any of those items, you can see that in essence, this item is quite a bit cheaper than if you go to the Forge and Jita, which would be all the way here. Like, it's double the price. That's interesting. That means that if you were able to go there, buy a bunch of those, and come here and sell them, you could make quite a bit of money if you want to do some hauling. You can get both the sell and the buy orders, but also the price history, but that's basically for the whole universe. This is something that's not available within EVE. So that's interesting. If you log in, I think you also get access to some of the stations that are not open to the public that you can get numbers from, but I'm not totally sure from that one. Another very useful website is Fuzzwork. By the way, I'll put all of the links here in the forum after the class. The next one is Fuzzwork. This one is a treasure trove of information, most of them coming from the API that CCP provides to get access to the game. You can get a blueprint computer saying, like, okay, if I do one blueprint, is it going to be interesting for me? There's a bunch of industry tools here. I'll let you have a look through it. They also provide some market data, which is interesting. You can see here just the sheer volume of titanium that's traded on the market. Not this. OzEve is a streamer on Twitch. He's been streaming, I think, 3 or 4 times a week for the past 4 months. All he does is actually trading. He also provides some interesting tools that you can use to start trading yourself, and you can see someone in action. I know that I haven't done a lot of trading live here, but if you go to any of those videos, you'll see his thinking behind how to trade. I cannot say I agree with all he says, but I mean, at this point, you can inform your own opinion based on what I discussed today and what he would say. Like, for instance, he would say not to ever change your sell order except let's say maybe once a month. As a station trader, once a month, that's too much. You need to get those items off your hands because any money that sits in escrow is money that's not working for you. So you need to get those off as soon as possible. Another thing that makes me think of, don't expect to make money on every trade that you do. It's okay if you lose a few millions here and there, if you can save your sanity and some time just trading. That's why I don't advise anyone to do 0.1 isking. And honestly, if you cut 10% of 3 million, it's nothing. Just don't fret about the small gains. Care about the volume and the velocity of the items that goes through your wallet. Eve also provides a nice trading sheet. What I mentioned before is that you can go through all of the items and look at the numbers and figure out whether they're good to sell or not. One way to circumvent having to do that is to use a nice trading sheet like this one. This one is has been built by himself. It works in tandem with JEve Assets. That's JEve Assets is a software that you can use to track your net worth, basically. So you can have nice graphs of your net worth going up over time and see all of your billions raked in every day. By looking at the items that you've previously bought or sold, it's going to build. Actually, I have a copy here. So you can basically make a copy and paste of all of the transaction that you've done recently, and by doing that, it's going to build a master list of what you should buy or sell, where, how much it's worth. Here I haven't updated the sheet, so the numbers are not there, but you can see the gist of this. It's already built. If you want to see how to use it, he has a nice video, again, that I will link in the forum afterward, of how to use the spreadsheet. This is a JEve asset. You can track your net worth over time. It's very interesting. All of this works from GESI. This is basically the Google Sheet interface to the ASI API. I can't remember what ESI actually means. Eve Swagger interface, yes. So by using this, you can put your credentials of your character, and they can get a lot of information out of your account. This is getting a lot more technical. This is part of what I wanted to keep for the chat afterward. I want to quickly mention it. The ESI is an interface where, if you are savvy in programming, you can use to actually get information about your characters. So all of the assets that you actually have on your character at this time. Information about the market. So every orders that you have, your order history, but also all of the history from a region in all of their price history or region. That's interesting. I think this is new, because I remember having to do it per item. Oh, no. Sorry, it's per item. Yeah, it's per item. Sorry. And also your wallet, because you want to see how much money you have on yourself at one time. This is basically the API that is used by any of those websites. Actually, even our forum are using it to get to know who actually connects and whether they are actually part of Eve Scout. Finally, this is the numbers I was discussing earlier. So Oz actually made a small study, and he estimates that every month, from the broker's fee of 1%, the Tranquility Trading Tower generate 2.2 trillion ISK in revenue. I'm sure a lot of people would be very happy to be able to get their hands on that much ISK, but you have to remember that they get war decked and attacked fairly often enough that you need the backings of a full corporation to do that. I'll stop here. We can start just answering questions from our audience, if you have any. If you want me to expand on anything I've said, or talk a little bit about maybe other types of trading that I'm looking to try next, I would say that my next big plan would be to look at contracts. The Swagger interface also allows to get contract information. So by looking at public contracts, we could see which ones are underpriced or overpriced, and then try and get money out of that. I suspect that a lot fewer people are actually looking at contracts compared to items on the market. So there's probably a lot of inefficiencies here that can be taken advantage of. Plus, it's going to help Xavik buy a bunch of blueprints for his industry character. Let's say here, the superior flow cytometry. If you put an order here for 1 and you 0.1s that person, this person here is never going to change their buy order to put it above yours. Why? Because it would cost them 100 times as much for them than for you to actually change back that order afterward. So if you look non-threatening and you buy, let's say, 10 of them, this person is probably going to say, well, I'll let this person get those 10 and I'll get the next batch afterward. However, if you put 1,000, you can be sure that this person will look at that, well, I'm never going to get those items if I don't change my order. So then they'll be much more incentivized to change their order and relist at a higher buy price. That being said, I never would suggest you to put a quantity here that's that you can see from the history would not ever happen within 1 day. Why? Well, first, because you scare people in absolutely outbidding you. Second, because of the new relisting fee, it's going to bleed you to death. If you sell, let's say, 5 items today and you have to change your order for 999 items, you basically lost any kind of profit you could have made on those 3 items. So, because of the about 2% relisting fee. So, keep your numbers low, keep it to what you would do within a day. This is assuming that you refresh your orders every day. If you, let's say on a Saturday, if you want to look at your orders multiple times a day, go right ahead. It's going to make you more profit because your orders are going to be more on top. But once a day is fine to make a fairly healthy profit. So once you see that people are actually trying to compete a lot with you, then you can start being a lot more aggressive. If I see here 1221 and 2100 up there, if I see a lot of competition, I would not shy from, let's say, going 100 more. If the price is closing still, I would probably jump by something double that. I would go to 1,700,000. Psychologically, if you see a small order with a price that's so much higher, nobody is going to try and outbid you because it just doesn't matter for them to do that. It doesn't make sense because psychologically the fear of losing money is just so high that they're not going to move on those orders. That is not always the case. I've sometimes seen people outbid me all the way up until the difference between those 2 prices were very, very close together, and it made no sense whatsoever to keep playing in that market. But what do you know? Actually, this one is top of the line. I can show you a secret after that of how I find actually my trades. This one is one of the best right now in New Eden. You'll be competing with 2 people, and they're fairly aggressive, as you can see. Those two were orders were made in the last hour. And on the sell side, yeah, you'll have a lot of trouble getting rid of those items because on the sell side, you can see that a lot of people put their orders up in the last, well, 3 hours really, because it goes all the way down here. So within the last 3 hours, the price went from 3,000 to 2,100,000. Given that new information, I revised my statement. This is not the best item right now. Although you can still make like 1 million out of them. And if you assume that you can get a decent chunk of that, that quantity, you should be able to get some profit out of it. Now, this comes with experience. If you see that a lot of people, okay, you have to differentiate between competitor trying to outbid you and those 1 here. Those are probably people that actually did the, I think those come from the project discovery. They probably worked through the project discovery, they don't care for the reward, and they want to sell it. So it's this 1 crate that they're selling 1 at a time because they got it. By the way, those crate measure like 6,000 meters cubed. They're a pain to move around, so be careful where you buy them. So still, even given all of that, if you're competing with people putting their orders, like this is not normal behavior. Like a bunch of people in Jita putting their orders at the same price, like something fishy happened here. Nobody would do that normally. Um, so yeah, look at how many people are involved. You don't see people, you see orders. Look at how fresh those orders are. This is going to give you an indication. What I usually do is I look at the how when the orders expire, and I come up with a rough approximation of let's say the most recent order was 5 hours ago. That means that nobody for 5 hours cared to change that person's mind that their order was not to be at the top. That means that if you put an order, you could expect something similar. So if you could expect to be able to keep an order up for 5 hours, that means that during the course of the day, assuming, and that's a lot of assumption, but assuming that all of the items are equally spaced during the day and their in when they sell, you could expect to make 5 out of 24, so roughly 1/5 of the quantity here. So if you can keep an order up at the top for 5 hours, you can estimate to be able to sell about 100 of those crates. Now there's a bunch of caveats to that, so this is like a upper band estimate. Don't use that as your go-to estimate. I would say it's probably possible to trade around 30 to 50 items here comfortably every day. If you let's say if you can or update your orders twice a day, you will be very successful. Because I know this is not probably the answer you were looking for. This is a lot more rule of thumb than what you were looking for, but really you get a feel for these eventually. Like even those here, the full cytometry, like on the buy side, like the top one is 10 days ago. So this is, oh yeah, it's because it's because in Jita they sell for less actually. Interesting. So if you want to make money, you can buy a bunch in Jita and then move them to perimeter. Don't do that.